Hello and welcome to my Specialization Introduction and Outdoor Content Guide for the Guardian Druid in World of Warcraft Battle for Azeroth. If you haven't watched the primer video for this series, I recommend you do that now. There'll be a link in the description below, and that will help get you up to speed on what exactly it is that we're doing in these videos. Now, we're in here with our Guardian Druid. We've got our action bars set up. You can ignore these spells over here. That's a reminder for me as I'm going through this video. If we open up our talent tree, these are the talents you can select to fulfill the requirements laid out in the primer video. Before we get into anything, I wanted to let you know, remind you that this is an open world content guide. So it is not a guide for tanking in dungeons or raids or anything like that. So we're going to be focusing on how to play this tanking specialization out in the open world. So we're going to be kind of ignoring a lot of abilities, talents, and things like that that would be good for tanking, because we want to focus on how to, improve our damage and things like that, increase our mobility out there in the open world doing that content. So keep that in mind as we go forward. Now, Guardian Druid, and Druid in general, is just going to be an interesting class to talk about because of all the different things you can do with the different shapeshift forms. So what we're going to do first is talk about what those forms are and what do they generally do. Now, you have your standard form. This is, you're not turned into anything, you're just a regular character. You are able to cast some of your abilities in this form, but a lot of your abilities are going to be specific to one of your shape-shifted forms. Now, the Guardian Druid has 3 available by default. There's Bear, Cat, and Travel Form. We're going to talk about those in reverse order. So Travel Form turns you into a bird or flying animal if you're in an area where you can fly. If you are not, this will turn you into like a stag. It will increase your movement speed on land or in the air. Also, if you're underwater, you turn into like a weird seal creature. Nobody knows what it is. But you will get increased movement speed and protection from polymorph effects while in this form. Anytime you shapeshift, this will free you from a movement impairing effect. So if you are dazed or something, shapeshifting will free you from that effect. Your land speed is increased outside of combat. So that's what Travel Form does. It's basically a form you activate when you want to travel because it's going to increase your speed. You're not really going to cast anything in this form, and you don't get any other real benefits from being in this form. Alright. The next form is Cat Form, and for the Guardian Druid, this will shift you into your cat, your feral cat form. This will increase your auto attack damage by 40%, your movement speed by 30%, and grant you that protection from polymorph effects, as well as reduced fall damage. So this is a good form to be in if you want to increase your damage, or if you're going to fall. And then the main form for the Guardian Druid is the Bear form. This is the big tanking form. This will give you 220% increased armor, 45% increased stamina, protection from polymorph effects, and increased threat generation. So this is the form that you tank in on the Guardian Druid. Now, the reason this is interesting is because when you're playing the Guardian Druid in open world content, you actually have the choice of playing all bear, all cat, or shifting back and forth between both as the situation allows. For the purpose of this guide, we're going to be talking about that, like how to play as both the cat form version of Guardian Druid and bear form, and how to go back and forth between the two to make sure that you're doing the right stuff in the right situations. So what we're going to do is we're going to have to look at some of these abilities a couple of times to place them into the right position. Now, when you shapeshift, you get a new bottom action bar. So I'm going to show you this. If we put our rejuvenation here and our swiftmend here, when we shift into bear form, you'll see rejuvenation is still there, but our swiftmend is not. If we take this wild growth and put it on our bear form and we shift out of bear form, you'll see that it's gone. If we shift into cat form, it's totally gone. If we shift into travel form, we get the same action bars as our regular form. So when you shift into bear or cat, you get a new bottom action bar. And this is important, and it's important to the way we set up our action bars in this series as well, because it's going to help us to sort our abilities based on which form can use them as well. So we're going to take everything off of our action bars over here again. Our other one was in our bear form here. And now we're going to open up our spell book and we're going to start going through our spells and organizing them. Now, I'm not going to go in depth into every single one of these abilities, but I will give you at least a brief description of what the ability does so you can understand why it's going in the category that it's going in. Please note, if you watch any of the other videos, we may sort things a little bit differently here just because of the whole shape-shifting thing. Alright, so first up we have Bark Skin. This is an ability that's a defensive cooldown. It reduces all damage we take and prevents us from getting our spell cast interrupted for 12 seconds. Now, this is the big important thing when you're looking at these druid abilities. You need that bottom section. Usable while stunned, frozen, incapacitated, feared, or asleep. That's all good, but and in all shapeshift forms. So if we take Barkskin, put it down here on our bar, we shift into bear, we're going to notice that it stays there. As long as we put it on the right side. If we move it over, now you're going to see that it is not there. So we want to make sure that we're utilizing this bar here for each specific form, and everything else stays out of that bar. Since Bark Skin is usable in all forms, we could put it over on this side in our defensive cooldown area, and all of our shapeshift forms will be able to use that ability. Alright, let's keep going. Next we have Dash. This ability will activate cat form and increase your movement speed by 60%. It's a cooldown. We'll put this in our combat utility. We're going to want to use this as often as we can. The cool thing about this ability is it also, even though it doesn't say it's usable in all forms, it is, because what it does is when you click it, it will activate cat form. It'll put you in a cat form no matter what you are and give you that speed boost. So any form you're in, you can use that ability and it will change you over to cat and give you your speed boost. Alright, next we have Entangling Roots. This is an ability. If it doesn't say that it requires bear, if it doesn't say it's usable in all shape-shifting forms, then it's usually a good idea to assume that you can't use it in a form. So if we target an enemy here and we cast Entangling Roots, you're going to see it shifts us back to our regular form. So this is an ability that we can use, but only in our main form. So you're going to look for that as well. Since there's nothing noting that it requires a certain form or you can cast it in a certain form, it means that when you use it, it's going to put you into your regular form. Now this goes over here with our CC. It's a crowd control ability that will root the target in place. Damage taken can cancel the effect though, so keep that in mind. Next we have Frenzied Regeneration. So this one has the red text, requires bear form. This will heal you for 24% of your maximum health over 3 seconds. This is a combat utility ability that we can use to heal ourselves while we're in bear form. Now we have a couple of options here. We can sort all of our bear abilities onto our bear bar so that we know, okay, these are things that we use only when we're a bear, or we can place them where we normally would on any other character to denote, like, this is an offensive, this is a defensive. For the purposes of this video, what we're going to do is we're going to stick all of our bear specific abilities on the bar for the bear. So for Frenzied Regeneration, we're going to just drop that down here, and this is where we're going to put our defensive and offensive cooldown abilities this time. Next we have Growl. This requires bear form. Now we are going to leave this one up top. The reason being we're probably not going to use it very often, if at all, in outdoor content. We can use it to kind of pull an enemy over to us if we want, but we have better ways of doing that. So we'll put that here and remember that it's there if we need it. We may move it down if we have enough space. Hibernate. This is an ability. It's a crowd control ability. It will put a target to sleep for 40 seconds, but it only works on beast and dragonkin, so you may or may not be able to use it. Incapacitating Roar. This will incapacitate all enemies within 10 yards for 3 seconds. And this is another one. It's usable in all shapeshift forms. This is a crowd control ability. We have Iron Fur. This is usable in bear form. It increases your armor for 7 seconds, and you can get several stacks of it. Something we're not really going to use in open world content, so we'll put it down here on the end as well. We have Mangle. So this does require... Oh, and I have already made the mistake. So I'll show you here. If I shift into bear form, boom, those abilities are gone. So what I want to do... When you're setting up your action bars, you want to be in bear form and then place those abilities down there. So Frenzied Regeneration, and then we're also going to have our Iron Fur. Mangle is part of our core rotation. Maul is part of our core rotation. Moonfire is part of our core rotation. Prowl is kind of like Dash. It's an ability that will activate cat form and put us into stealth, so we can stealth as a druid. We'll put that down in our combat utilities section. We have Rebirth. This is a combat utility ability that can be used by... it can be used in any shapeshift form, and it is a battle res. It will resurrect a friendly target while you're in combat, but we're probably not going to use it that often in open world content, so we'll put it over here on the right hand side. Regrowth is a combat utility ability. This will heal a friendly target for a good amount and then add a little healing over time effect to them, so we can use that to heal ourselves if we really need to. Rejuvenation is something we're getting from a talent. I put it over here to remind me. Remove Corruption. This is a combat utility ability. We're going to put it on the right hand side. It removes curse and poison effects from a target. Probably not going to use it that often in open world content. Revive goes in our miscellaneous. This lets us revive a character outside of combat. Shred is a cat only ability, so we're going to come back around and we're going to set up the cat bar too. We're going to go through and pick all the stuff that will work for cat as well and put it on the cat bar, so we'll pass that for now. Skull Bash requires cat form, bear form. It's a charge that will interrupt the target, so this is our interrupt ability. You can also use it as kind of a movement ability if you want to as well, if you don't have anything to interrupt. Soothe will soothe the target, combat utility. This dispels enrage effects. Probably not going to use that in outdoor combat either. We have Stampeding Roar. This is a movement combat utility ability. It will increase the movement speed of all friendly players within 15 yards by 60%. Survival Instincts. This will reduce all damage we take by 50% for 6 seconds. That's a defensive cooldown ability. And if we shift out, you'll see that we can pop that in any form as well. Swiftmen we're getting from a talent. Swipe is part of our core rotation. Teleport Moonglade will teleport us to the Moonglade, the Druid Haven. Thrash is part of our core rotation. Wild Growth we're getting from a talent, and everything else is a passive. So we've got all of our bear stuff here, but we want to switch over to cat form, and we want to put all of our cat stuff there. So we're going to run through. We've already got Dash, Entangling Roots. This needs bear form, bear form. We will go ahead, since we didn't have too much going on in our bear form, we'll go ahead and drop down Growl. Put that over there. That way we don't have to see it if we're not in bear form. Let's see. That's bear form. So keep going. We can use Moonfire and Shred. We've got our Skull Bash on there. Swipe we can use as a cat as well. Thrash we can use as a cat, part of our core rotation there. Okay, so that covers all the spells there. Now, our talent, our travel form and our regular form, we probably do want to have whatever abilities we can use on this bar as well. So that's not a whole lot of stuff. What we're going to want to put on here is anything that is on our bear form or our cat form that we can also use, which for the most part I think is just Moonfire. Well, let's double check. Yeah, I think the only ability that we don't have on our action bars already that we can use specifically is Moonfire. So we'll add that on there. All right, and that is our action bar set up. As you can see, it's a lot more complicated with the different shapeshift forms that we have, but now we're ready. We're ready to get in and talk about the core rotation of the Guardian Druid in open world content. So, two options. You can go bear, you can go cat. We're going to talk about both. We're going to start with bear. So when you are in bear form, you have, and this is the other thing, your different shapeshift forms have different resources available to them. So in bear form, you have a resource called Rage. You start with 0 rage, you build up rage as you deal and take damage. You can have a maximum of 100, and you spin that rage to use your abilities. As you can see, we do have one ability here, Maul, which cost us some rage. Everything else we can use without rage. So when you start combat, the first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to open up with a Mangle. Mangle does a good amount of damage to the target, and it has a short cooldown and generates 8 rage. So you'll open up with this just to get the cooldown going. Then you want to cast Moonfire. Moonfire will shoot down a beam of light, it'll deal some damage, and then deal a bunch of damage over time, over 16 seconds. After you've got those two going and your Mangle is, got its cooldown, you'll want to start building up some more rage, if possible. You've got one way to do this, really, and that is through your Thrash ability. Thrash will strike all nearby enemies. Boom, just like that. It will deal some initial damage, and then it will deal additional bleed damage over 15 seconds. While you're in bear form, you can stack this bleed on the target up to 3 times. This will generate 5 rage. So if you look at our target, we can Thrash. It's got 1 stack. When Thrash comes off cooldown, we can Thrash again. Now we have 2 stacks. And when it comes off cooldown, we can Thrash again for 3 stacks. Okay, now the key to this is when you use Mangle, it deals 20% additional damage to bleeding targets. So after we have Thrash stacks up, we can hit Mangle for increased damage. Now we do have Swipe if we want to hit multiple enemies, but our Thrash is on cooldown. That doesn't cost any rage. And we have a single target ability called Maul, which we can use against one target that will deal a nice chunk of damage and cost 45 rage. So, what does this mean? We open combat with Mangle. We get our Moonfire going on our target. We can then Thrash in order to get bleeds onto our target so our Mangles will deal more damage. While we're waiting for Thrash and Mangle to come off cooldown, we can Swipe if we have multiple enemies, or we can use our Maul to spend rage and deal damage to a single target. So let's go ahead and try that out. We're going to Mangle, we're going to Moonfire, we're going to start casting Thrash. That's on cooldown, so maybe we'll go back and we'll Swipe against multiple targets, or we'll Maul against a single target and use our rage. So once again, we'll Mangle, Moonfire, Thrash. We don't have enough rage to Maul yet, so maybe we just Swipe. Try to build up enough rage for the Maul. Now this is going to change a little bit because I know you're seeing some graphics pop up around the character, and that's because of the passive abilities that we have as the Guardian Druid. So the first one we have is Thick Hide. This reduces all damage we take by 1%. We have our Mastery, which increases our health and our attack power. We have Lightning Reflexes. We'll gain dodge from 100% of our critical strike on gear. Alright, so those are all pretty boring, right? They don't really do anything that impacts our gameplay. The talent that does impact or the spell that does impact our gameplay is Gore. Gore, your Thrash, right? So our AoE, Thrash, your Swipe, this one here, and our Moonfire, and our Maul. Literally everything we're using that isn't Mangle to deal damage to our targets have a 15% chance to reset the cooldown on Mangle and to cause it to generate an additional 4 Rage. So what this means is you're going to see that little graphic pop up, and you're going to see Mangle flash yellow, and that means that we can cast it again. The cooldown's been reset, and it will generate more Rage, and this is how we get up to being able to cast Maul quicker. So we go up, we Mangle, we Moonfire, we got to reset so we can Mangle again. We'll go into our Thrash now. We'll Swipe. Mangle's back up. We can Maul. Thrash. Mangle's back up. Swipe. Thrash to get that 3rd stack. Mangle's back up. Cast a Maul. Along with this, we want to make sure that we always have our little Moonfire tick going. And that's pretty much it. That's what you're going to do. You use that Mangle initially so you have the chance of these abilities resetting the cooldown. You want to hit Thrash every time you can to get that bleed damage on there and stack it up to make your Mangles deal more damage. Keep your Moonfire up constantly, and then hit Swipe if you've got nothing else you can hit. Hit Maul to spend your Rage and get rid of it. And that's essentially all you're going to do. So run through it one more time. Mangle into Moonfire. We want to Thrash. We hit Swipe because we got nothing else to do. Mangle's off cooldown, so we hit that. We hit Thrash again to get our stacks going. We hit Swipe. Mangle's off cooldown. We keep our Moonfire buff going. We'll Thrash again for 3 stacks. We got our Mangle. We're building up Rage. And we can start casting Maul to deal a nice chunk of damage to our target. And you'll see that's pretty much how it's going to go. It's not a whole lot of damage output, but as a tank, as a bear, you're not going to take a lot of damage either. So really good against multiple targets. So that's what you can do for your basic rotation on the Guardian Druid in bear form. Now, if you really want to put out some damage, you will shift over to cat form. Cat form has a totally different resource system. When you are a cat, you have 2 resources. You have energy. You start combat with 100 energy. You spend it on abilities, and it will passively regenerate. Then you also have combo points. You start with no combo points. You can have up to 5, and as you build these up, you will spend them on finishing moves. So, essentially, you'll spend your energy on abilities that will give you combo points. Then you'll spend your combo points on finisher abilities to kill your target. And as you're doing that, your energy will regenerate, and you'll be able to start that cycle all over again. Now, by default, the cat form only has 4 abilities we can use here. And none of these are finishing moves. So, what we're going to do in cat form is we're going to want to cast Shred. Shred will deal some physical damage to the target. That's kind of our filler ability. We have our Moonfire, once again, just like we did in bear form. We have Swipe to swipe a bunch of enemies, and we do have our Thrash. Now, our auto attack damage goes up by quite a lot. We lose a lot of survivability. So we'll want to get our Moonfire going. Okay, I was wrong. Moonfire is not usable in cat form. So, what you're going to want to do, and that was my mistake, you're going to want to Thrash or Swipe or Shred. You kind of just spam these. Alright, and I know this looks pretty bad right now, but it's going to look a lot better in a minute. Alright, so that is the basic rotation for the Guardian Druid. Spam this stuff in cat form. As you can see, it all costs different amounts of energy. Your shred is for your single target. Your thrash is for your multiple target and puts the bleeds. And your swipe is just your multiple target attack ability. So, now that we've looked at that, let me also mention when you're not in your shapeshift forms, your resource is mana, which you start with a certain amount of mana based on your intellect, and you use that to cast spells. But generally, you're not going to be in this form, so it's not too important. Just know that you do have just mana if you're not in your shapeshift forms. So, let's get into the meat of this, get into the talent tree, create a build that is good for outdoor content, and then take a look at these rotations one more time. Alright, so I'm going to set this up real quick. Okay, so this is the build that I recommend that you use in outdoor content. It's not the only build that you can use, but it is the one that I enjoy, have fun with, and will be demoing at the end of this video. We're going to go through each talent, talk about what it does, and why we added it into the build. So first off, let me just say that because I am trying to focus on using cat form and bear form where appropriate, I tried to focus on a lot of talents that worked in both of those forms. They won't all work that way, but most of them do. So first off, brambles. Sharp brambles protect you, absorbing and reflecting up to 71 damage from each attack. So we just passively are going to get some damage absorption and reflection of that damage from each of the attacks that hit us. While Bark Skin, which is our defensive cooldown we have here, is active, the brambles also deal 36 nature damage to all nearby enemies every 1 second. So this takes our Bark Skin, which is 100% a defensive ability, and gives us the ability to hit this to deal some additional area of effect damage and kind of turn it into a little bit of an offensive ability. Next we have Wild Charge. So this will give us a movement ability, so we'll put that down here in our combat utility section. And this ability changes based on the type of form we are in. So if we are in our regular form, then we can pick a target, and I think they have to be in our party, but let's just double check. We can pick a target, oh here we go, and we will fly to their position. Okay. If we are in bear form, we charge an enemy and immobilize them for 4 seconds. So this gives us the ability to have a charge on a 15-second cooldown to help us get from enemy to enemy in bear form. Cat form, it'll let us jump behind the enemy and daze them for 3 seconds. So once again, the ability to go from enemy to enemy. If we're in travel form, it leaps us forward 20 yards, so that will help us to travel even faster. And if we're in our aquatic form, it will increase our swim speed by an additional 150% for 5 seconds. So all around, it's just a very versatile movement ability where you always get a benefit no matter what kind of form you're in. So very good utility ability. Next, we have Feral Affinity. When you're playing a druid, you always get to pick an affinity talent based on the 3 other specializations that you are not currently playing. So what we're doing, we're taking the feral affinity for a couple of reasons. One, it will give us feline swiftness, so our movement speed will be increased by 15% at all times. Also, we will learn 3 other cat abilities, which are going to be very important to making that cat rotation look a lot better than it did earlier. And it's going to increase our energy regeneration in cat form by 35%, making it much more viable to have a rotation with that form. Next, we have Mighty Bash. This is an ability we can put down onto our crowd control area. This is a 5-second stun that's usable in all forms. So we can use it as cat, we can use it as bear, we can use it you know, if we're in travel form, if we really wanted to, but nice 5-second stun, crowd control ability. Then we have Galactic Guardian. Your damage has a 5% chance to trigger a free automatic moonfire on the target. So what this means is if we're using Thrash and hitting all the targets around us, there's a 5% chance that we will cast a free moonfire on all those targets. So that's good for kind of getting that moonfire onto all those targets without having to target every single one of them. Also, when that happens, the next moonfire we cast will generate 8 rage, which is only good in bear form, but that's okay. And it will deal 300% increased direct damage. So it makes our next moonfire kind of like a big nuke. So that's good. But our damage, this Galactic Guardian passive can trigger whenever we're doing damage in whatever form. Next we have Earth Warden. When you deal direct damage with Thrash, you gain a charge of Earth Warden, reducing the damage of the next auto attack you take by 30%. Earth Warden may have up to 3 charges. So this will work in both forms because we can cast Thrash as both bear and cat, and it'll give us some damage mitigation, some survivability that way. Finally, we have Rend and Tear, and this is specific to bear form, but while in bear form, Thrash or Bleed also increases your damage dealt to the target and reduces your damage taken from the target by 2% per application of Thrash. So this is a 6% damage increase in bear form, which is good because we want more damage in bear form. So what we need to do here is we've got our Mighty Bash on our bar, we've got our Wild Charge on our bar, but we gained 3 abilities for cat form. So we need to go back into our cat form, and you see they already added them here. So now this rotation is going to make a little bit more sense, because before we just had these 3. So we're building up combo points and we have nothing to spend them on. Well, that's not the case anymore. We now have 2 finishing moves. We have Rip and Ferocious Bite. Rip is a finishing move that will cause bleed damage to the target, and the amount of damage is increased based on the amount of combo points you spend on it. So you can see here over on the right, 1 point will give you 492 damage, 5 points will give you 2,460 damage. Ferocious Bite is a combo move that will consume up to 25 additional energy to increase damage by up to 100%. And when used on targets below 25%, Ferocious Bite will refresh the duration of your Rip on your target, which is the ability we're about to talk about. But mainly what this does is it will deal a chunk of damage to the target. So 1 point, 298 damage, 5 points, 1,488 damage. So Rip applies a bleed, and Ferocious Bite deals a chunk of damage and refreshes the duration of Rip on our target. Finally, we added Rake. This takes 35 energy. It rakes the target, causes them to bleed, and if we use it while we're stealthed, Rake will also stun the target for 4 seconds and deal 100% increased damage. Okay, so let's get back into this. Let's take a look at how this has affected our bear form rotation. So in bear form, nothing much has really changed, okay? We still want to go in, we want to mangle, we want to get our Moonfire on there, we want to get our Thrashes up. But what you'll see now is that we have a chance to get that free Moonfire cast from our damage. There's that Galactic Guardian, and now our Moonfire will deal a nice chunk of damage. We'll have that Galactic Guardian buff, and we will see our Moonfire light up yellow, and that means that we have gotten that Galactic Guardian off. Also, you're going to see that we will have, there we go, right there. You'll see that we have our Earth Warden up. So we have our damage reduction from Earth Warden, and also our Rend and Tear is going to increase our damage against this target as well. Alright, so one more time we're going to get that Moonfire buff to come up. There we go. So you can see anytime you have these moons on the side of you, it means that you have gotten that Galactic Guardian, and you could fire that off. Alright, so nothing much changes in your bear form. We just got some nice damage increases kind of passively in the background. In cat form, however, we can now really start to change things up. So what we're going to want to do in cat form is we're going to want to open up with Rake. Rake is going to put the bleed onto our target. It's going to give us a combo point. If we want to use it from stealth, we can. But we don't necessarily need to. So we're going to rake the target. Now, our shred does give us a combo point. And this has changed a little bit. So shred will deal damage to the target and does 20% increased damage against bleeding targets. This is why we want to cast Rake first. So Rake puts a bleed on, then we start using Shred against a single target. It deals 20% increased damage because of the bleed. If we are stealth, it will have increased damage and double the chance to critically strike. Then, after that, we also can apply our Thrash. If we're against multiple targets, that'll put a bleed on them, deal damage, give us combo points. And then we can spend those combo points on Rip and Ferocious Bite. So what you're gonna want to do is use this stuff to build up to your 5 combo points, put Rip onto the target, build up the 5 combo points, and then put Ferocious Bite onto the target. Now, you have your swipe there, and it kind of fulfills the same purpose. If Thrash is on cooldown for some reason, or you can't use it, then you will swipe to deal damage. Swipe also costs a little bit less energy, but generally you're going to end up not using swipe. So let's go up to the target. We're going to Rip, and then we're going to start shredding. We can Thrash if we want to get that bleed on there. Alright, we've got our 5 points. We want to Rip. Okay, then we want to make sure we keep our Rake up on our target. Go back to shredding until we can get our 5 combo points again. And then we want to cast Ferocious Bite, which will re-up the duration of our Rake. And that's pretty much it. And you can see we have the buff from Galactic Guardian, which means we did get a free Moonfire on this target. However, we can't use the Moonfire for the increased damage when we're in cat form. But we do just get that nice passive increase of damage whenever that Moonfire goes off. Alright, and that is pretty much what you're going to do. So those are the 2 ways that you can play. You can either go full bear form and work on the combos we talked about, or cat form, depending on what you want to do. So let's talk quickly about the PvP talents that are available if you want to toggle on war mode and mainly focus on PvE content. First, I recommend you take Relentless. This will replace your Honorable Medallion, give you 20% reduction in the duration of any crowd control effects. Just a nice set it, forget it passive ability. Master Shapeshifter. Your Feral, Balance, or Restoration affinity is amplified, granting an additional effect. Now keep in mind, we're using Feral affinity, so in this case, while in cat form, your damage is increased by 30%. That's great. That will help us kill things a lot more, a lot faster. Sharpen Claws, your Maul, which is our bear form single target ability. Increases the damage done by your swipe and thrash by 25% for 6 seconds. So anytime we maul, we spend rage, we'll then get that increase on our AoE abilities here. So that's going to help us put out a lot more damage when we're fighting multiple enemies. And then finally, Roaring Speed reduces the cooldown of your Stampeding Roar by 60 seconds. Stampeding Roar gives you and all friendly players within 15 yards 60% movement speed. Normally is on a 2-minute cooldown, now it's on a 1-minute cooldown, so you can use that, get a lot more mobility out of your specialization than you normally would be able to. Now, I know that might all have seemed like a bit overwhelming, but we're going to take this out in the open world and we're going to show how both these styles will work. And then you can test them out, and it'll kind of be up to you to decide if you want to stick purely with the cat form as a guardian, go full on bear, or kind of go back and forth depending on the situation. So I'm going to cut to that now, and I'll see you there. Alright, so we're here in Surmar City, and we're just going to go down and test out this build against a couple different types of enemies. So the first thing we're going to do is show off the cat form variation on this. So in cat form, we can choose to be in stealth. This is really great because we can get by a lot of different enemies. But for example, if we wanted to get this guy, we could use our wild charge. That'll put us behind the target. So we want to rake and then start shredding until we get up to our combo points. In that case, we did just fine. So let's go over to this guy, and we can use our wild charge again. Alright, rake, shred, build up our combo points. And you can see how on the target dummy it didn't look all that impressive. It didn't look like, you know, we were doing a lot of damage or anything too cool. But out here in the actual world, we're actually putting out a significant amount of damage. So let's go ahead and pull these three. Here, we'll show off some AoEs. So we're on our main target, we're going to do our rake, then we're going to thrash. We can start swiping to build up combo points this time. Keep on swiping. And in this situation, you're oftentimes just better off using your Ferocious Bite to get rid of single enemies instead of trying to do the full combo of rake, shred into rip, then back into it, then Ferocious Bite. It's usually better just to put rake on a target, shred, thrash, swipe, and then just kill things off with Ferocious Bite. So let's go ahead and see if we can get another target here. So if we wanted to, we could go into stealth, and we can get our double damage shred. Oh, he saw us, but we got it there, so there we go. This guy, we go up, we rip, we shred, we've got full combo points, we Ferocious Bite, he's almost dead, and we're good to go. Now that's going to be good in single target situations. That's going to be good when you've got 2 or 3 kind of regular enemies attacking you. It won't be quite as good if you are in a multi-target situation with a bunch of different difficulty enemies. So let's say we want to grab, you know, these 4 guys here. This guy here is a little bit stronger than we're used to. We go into cat form. We're going to go ahead and thrash to build up some combo points. We could put our rip on this guy here. Still trying to thrash. As you can see, we're taking a lot of damage. And in this case, we may even die. Let's see if we can... Alright, we've got some healing abilities we could use. We can also jump into the water. That's a good way to escape. Because now we have our crazy weird manatee travel form. We can use our wild charge to get another burst of speed and get ourselves out of combat here. There we go. So as you can see, not the best thing to do if you are trying to take on a bunch of enemies. So what we're going to do is we're going to show off how that scenario goes if you are in bear form. So let's go ahead. We're going to heal ourselves up with our regrowth here. Alright, so we're going to do the same thing, but this time instead of going into cat form, we're going to go into bear form. Alright, so let's go ahead and fly down. Get all these guys to attack us again. Here we go. Now we're going bear form, okay? So in bear form, we want to get that mangle. We want to start doing our thrash, get our swipes in here. Swipes, hit our mangles. We got our maws to spend rage on. We're getting our free powerful moonfires in there. Keep thrashing so we can get up to our 3 stacks of thrash there. There we go. Mangle again. And this is where it slows down a little bit on the Guardian Druid in bear form. Single target. This guy is a tougher enemy, but single target damage in bear form is not really the best. But as you can see, the same scenario that we were in as a cat, now we can cast Frenzy Regeneration. That'll heal us for 24% of our max health over 3 seconds. so we can get our health back up that way. But as you can see, that same scenario that we were in as a cat, where everything just kind of went crazy and we almost died and we had to run away, really wasn't that much of a problem for bear. And this is why I say that you kind of want to be able to shapeshift between cat and bear depending on the situation. So like these three characters, these three enemies here are not very strong, so I can drop down in cat form, reduce fall damage, go in with some rakes, you know, start hitting some swipes, take these guys down. Put those thrashes in there. You know, I'm doing just fine. I'm not worried about this damage I'm taking right here. Use my combo points to get rid of a target there. Pretty easy. We took almost no damage, but that same scenario against some stronger enemies, I'd probably want to be bear. So let's go ahead and we're going to go in here. We're going to rip, shred. We're going to show this full cat rotation now. Okay, so we're going to build up. We're going to rip. All right, now we're going to keep shredding. Make sure that we cast our rake to keep that buff up. And we would cast Ferocious Bite if we built up to enough combo points. In that case, we didn't, so no big deal there. Now, one more thing to show off is we'll show what you can do as a Guardian Druid if you just go full-on bear form right from the beginning and incorporate some of your defensive abilities. So remember, we have Frenzied Regeneration. We could build up Rage to use this to get 24% of our maximum health back. We also have Iron Fur, which will increase our armor. In addition, we have our Bark Skin, we got our Survival Instincts, we got all these cool little things we can get here. So let's go ahead, and we're just going to gather up some enemies here. I can't see over this guy. Alright, so let's start doing this. We're going to thrash. Let's cast our Iron Fur. Mangle. We're going to swipe here. Thrash again. Mangle. Use our Iron Fur. Hit our Frenzied Regeneration to get some health back. Keep that thrash up. We got 3 stacks on most things now, so we're going to start swiping. Cast those free Moonfires when we get them. Or those empowered Moonfires when we get them. Keep those thrash stacks going. Swipe. We got our Iron Fur up again. We could target this guy, use our Wild Charge to get over there. Boom, take him down. Use our Mangle. Use our swipes. Keep thrashing. And as you can see, now it starts to kind of slow down. You could use our Frenzied Regeneration to heal up again. But essentially, this is the kind of thing you're going to want to do with your Guardian Druid if you choose to go full bear mode. And most of the time, you will want to go full bear mode, especially when you're just fighting kind of normal enemies. And you can pull like 6, 7, 8, 9 of them. Or if you have to fight a strong enemy and you're worried about surviving in cat form. For cat form, that's good for stealthing around, killing a single target really quickly, or if you're just kind of killing one target, then the next, and the next. Cat form is really good for that, and that's why I recommend that you learn how to play both forms, because it's going to speed you up depending on the quest you're doing or the area you're farming. But yeah, that is the build. That's how it plays. So hopefully this has helped you to understand how to play Guardian Druid in open world content a little bit better. Hopefully you've got the confidence now to get on your own Guardian Druid, get out there, try some of the stuff, see if it's a specialization that you want to play. Remember, as always, this is an open world guide, not a dungeon raid tanking guide, so that's what we were focused on. If you like the video, hit the thumbs up. Subscribe, whatever you want to do to encourage me to keep making these videos. I hope you have a good time in Battle for Azeroth, and thank you for watching.